from MMA Fighting Studios, this is Between the Links. And now, your host, Mike Heck.
The iconic voice of Esterlin welcomes you to a brand new edition of BTL. Happy Thursday to us all. It's the final live BTL of 2024, the final video form edition of BTL of 2024. More on that later in the program, but the UFC just wrapped and packed their 2024 with UFC Tampa this past Saturday. So now we are shifting into awards mode. And today we will preview the MMA Fighting 2024 year-end awards, as we do on the show every year just before the awards come out. And today, joining me to do just that is MMA Fighting's road warrior, my fellow New Englander, fellow Red Sox fan, the social media powerhouse here at MMAfighting.com. The great Jose Youngs joins us. Where is he? What's up, my man? How are you?
What's up, dog? And last week I don't even remember. Was it last week? I had to do writing too, so include that in my intro because there were no writers on staff, so the video social editor had to do writing, which was a blast.
Soon to be Pulitzer Prize nominee.
That's right.
His outstanding writing abilities. And like I said, we're going to talk about the awards. Jose and I, we are open books. We are New Englanders. We are here to tell you like it is. We are not here to hide from anything. We're going to tell you exactly how we voted for these awards, but we'll get to that in a second because, Jose, you and I really haven't reacted to a ton of the UFC Tampa aftermath. So I wanted to get your take on what happened in the main event between Joaquin Buckley and Colby Covington. Buckley, we'll talk about his turnaround, I would have to say, as the show progresses, but moves to 4-0 in 2024. Gets the doctor stoppage TKO in the final fight of the year for the UFC, beats a former interim champion. Colby's now lost 2 straight. He's dropped 3 of 4 in 4 of his past 6. Was your biggest takeaway from this fight on the Joaquin Buckley side or the Colby Covington side?
Probably the Buckley side, because I didn't have super high expectation for Colby Covington's performance just because, he hadn't fought in a long time. He didn't look that great against Leon Edwards, which was the last time we saw him, and that was a year ago. Before that, he had beaten Jorge Masvidal, and that win hasn't aged especially well. So I didn't have high expectations for Colby. I thought he would look more competitive for sure. So I guess I was surprised that, that vaunted Colby Covington pressure and cardio that we've seen over his career just wasn't on display, and that's largely because Joaquin Buckley just didn't let him do it. Buckley might not be the most well-rounded mixed martial arts fighter. I would say Vicente Luque is probably a better jiu-jitsu practitioner than Buckley. I bet he has higher level submission defensive skills than Joaquin Buckley. Probably a more well-rounded, refined striker than Joaquin Buckley. But Joaquin Buckley hits so hard. He hits like he's a guy that even if you block it, you're gonna feel it. Your hands are gonna hurt. You're gonna block with your hands, and he's gonna punch your fist, and then your fist is gonna connect with your own eye. That's how hard this dude hits. So I don't know if I'd favor him against the top 3, top 5, or someone like Ian Machado Gary, who has shown the ability to kind of negate people that hit really hard, like Jeff Neal. But man, Joaquin Buckley hits extremely, extremely hard, and he's extremely accurate. And he's just, like I said, one of those guys that even if you do block it, it's going to hurt. And if you block your head, he's going to punch your arm. It's like he's going to punch your arm. He's going to punch your stomach. He's going to do everything in his power just to whittle you down with power. I wish we could have seen how he would have looked in rounds 4 and 5. Obviously, he just opened that cut over Colby Covington's face, which I think rightfully so. The referee and the doctor waved it off. But I was more impressed with Joaquin Buckley's performance than I was disappointed at Colby Covington's performance. And by disappointed, I don't mean I wanted him to do well. What my expectation wasn't high, but his performance was a little lower than even that expectation.
I was baffled by the whole thing because I had no idea what this fight was going to look like. But I was sure that within the first 10 minutes, we would know what this fight was going to be. We would know who was going to win. And we kind of knew after round 1 because the sprawl, Buckley defending Colby's shot, you were immediately just like, this ain't going to be good for Colby. And then Buckley dropped him at the end of the first round. And you're just like, oh boy, maybe Colby can steal
That's
around
why
here and there, but go ahead.
I really wanted to see round 4 or 5 because, like we've said a million times, like, yeah, you stuff a takedown, that's great, but can you keep doing it? And especially when you're all slippery and when Colby Covington is slippery and he can get a hand of you with covered in blood in rounds 4 and 5, you might not be able to get up. You might not have something to grab onto. It's just tougher. Like, you can stop Khabib's takedown, but can you keep stopping Khabib's takedown? So I still have questions about Buckley. I think there's a lot of this next fight. We're getting a lot of those answers regardless. But yes, I do agree with you. Right out of the gate, I was like, this is not going to be Colby Covington's night, like right away. But I just wish we got to see rounds 4 and 5.
It's very interesting because there's a part of me that feels like Buckley isn't getting enough credit here, and then there's
Sure.
kind of the way. Is this? I know Casey and Jed talked about this in the post fight show. Is the result the best case scenario for Colby?
Yeah.
Because look at how he's handled it. Like, this couldn't be any better for him, right? I mean, it's a loss, but if he's going to losing like this gives you kind of some open-ended excuses and be like, he didn't beat me. The doctor beat me.
Yeah. And I said that in our Slack channel. I'm like, best case scenario, because it's the same thing we talk about with Conor. Like, we didn't really have that image of Conor just laid out, like unconscious, like getting choked out. Like, yeah, you can get tackled, you can leave your neck out and you get choked out. And the excuse is like, oh, he didn't stand up and trade with me. Like, obviously Dustin Poirier turned his lights off, and then the rematch is like Conor breaks his leg, and the argument is still like, oh, if we didn't break his leg, it would have been a different fight. But he did break his leg. It's the same with Colby. Like, the excuse, I don't like using the word excuse, but if he had lost a 49-46 or 50-45 decision, we would not be having this conversation. If he probably would have, honestly. Like, oh, the cut, the ringside judges saw the cut and it looked worse than it is, and that's what gave it to him. Like, he had excuses when he beat Leon Edwards. Remember when he beat Leon Edwards, but he ended the fight on top? Like, that final round was Colby's like best round or whatever. Like, because he finished on top because Leon tried to wrestle him, Colby didn't let him, and he finished the round punching Leon. And it's just that weird image of Leon clearly won, but Leon's the one getting up from getting punched, raising his hands, and Colby's like, oh, I won that fight. I finished the fight on top. Pride rules, I won. And judge, I'm like, oh, God damn it. Like, I just wanted a definitive ending. This was definitive in the eyes of people that know what they're watching, but the quote unquote excuse is there. The referee didn't let him do it. And, him coming out and saying, oh, it was 1-1. I can see, I'll listen to your argument that it's 1-1. I thought it was 2-0 Buckley, but I will listen to your argument that it was 1-1. And again, it just goes back to, I wish we saw rounds 4 and 5. I really do. We would have gotten answers and probably a more clear, definitive answer.
And shout out to Joaquin Buckley, because Jose, as you very well know, when you cover events and it's getting late and the midnight oil is burning, and even the UFC staff members at certain points are like, all right, let's we're ready to get the hell out of here. Joaquin Buckley shows up to the post-fight press conference, does it for a minute, drops the mic and beats feet, and we all sort of look at each other like,
love it.
What a hero. Like, what an absolute hero right there. So good on Joaquin Buckley. What is next for him? He wants Kamaru Usman. I like the call out. I think the fight makes a lot of sense, but it seems like Kamaru Usman is very picky and choosy with who he wants to fight next. So if you had the mighty pencil, Joaquin Buckley versus fill in the blank.
I don't think he's being picky about who he fights. I think he's picky on when he fights, because I think he wants to be 100% healthy. Like, he did his podcast with Hudo, and his exact quote, which you can go look at MMA Fighting social channels at MMA Fighting across the board. He says his exact phrase is, "I don't care who it is. I just want to be 100%." Like, he doesn't care if it's Shavkat, he doesn't care if it's Ian, he doesn't care if it's JDM, he doesn't care if it's Buckley. I believe Usman, a guy that will step up and fight Hamza on a short notice. I don't think he's afraid of anybody. I just think he wants to be 100% healthy, and he wants to get back in there and fight the highest ranked guy. Right now, that is JDM. He's ranked 4th, I believe, in the UFC's official rankings. I know they have the big fight in Australia. I don't know if JDM's going to fight there. I wouldn't, if they do JDM Usman in Miami, I don't think anyone's going to care because that fight rules. If Sean Brady, I know Sean Brady's been calling for that Leon fight. If he doesn't get the fight in London, I would love to see Joaquin Buckley versus Sean Brady. I would love to see them rebook Ian Machado Gary versus Joaquin Buckley. I know Vicente Luque has been calling for the Ian rebooking too, but I actually also don't mind Vicente Luque getting booked against Jorge Masvidal like he also wants on that Miami card. He was supposed to fight Nick Diaz twice. He didn't complain when the fights were rebooked. He got Temba Garimbo, who was a dangerous cat that was surging. If you're not going to be able to fight one of the Diaz brothers, I think Jorge Masvidal is just as good. I don't mind that fight on the Miami card. So if they want to rebook Buckley versus Ian, by all means do it. Because if Colby Covington had won, they would have booked Ian Machado Gary versus Colby Covington, or at least they would have tried to, especially on that Miami card or another fight night. So just do Buckley versus Usman or Buckley versus Ian. But if in a meritocracy thing, I think the Ian Machado Gary rematch or rebooking makes sense. I think they're right next to each other in the rankings, and Usman and JDM are right next to each other in the rankings. And unfortunately, that leaves Sean Brady the odd man out.
Yeah. But I mean, all those fights are interesting. If I'm
Yeah.
Buckley, I'm probably trying to jump on the Leon Edwards fight. I think that's a very gettable fight for him at this moment. But it's just a matter of like what he wants to do, because if they're going to book Bilal versus Shavkat at some point, we have no idea what's going on with Shavkat at the moment, with all the rumor and innuendo that possible torn MCL after the Gary fight. And if that's the case, he's going to be out for a hot minute. And I'm sure the UFC is going to want Bilal to fight before that. So Joaquin could be ready for that. He should at least be ready to be the backup for that fight. And again, what a freaking year it has been for Joaquin Buckley. What about Colby, Jose? This is a guy who just seems to find himself in the title conversation no matter what is happening. All he needs is a win to get back in there. Do you feed him to the hungry lion as they get over this guy to get up to the top? Is that the kind of opponent, or are we about to begin the Colby Covington Legends/Veterans Tour? Let's match him up with other guys who have been in the UFC a long time that he hasn't fought yet.
I think Colby's a guy that I don't like the way he approaches promoting fights. It's not my thing, but it gets, obviously, I was doing all the social, and he drums up a lot of interest on social media, especially with the younger fans, especially with the younger fans. I was shocked at how many like young MMA fans really gravitate towards Colby Covington. So I think selfishly, as someone who works at an MMA website who's makes a living off of people that generate interest, I think that Colby Covington's next fight should have a story built into it, because it will just give us that much more juice. And I think the Gilbert Burns fight is the one to do it. I don't know if you saw that video, but Colby Covington wants to take revenge on Gilbert Burns for posting Chael Sonnen's number. Chael was in Colby Covington's corner in Tampa. Gilbert Burns obviously very mad at Colby. They both train in Florida. I wouldn't hate Gilbert Burns versus Colby Covington on that Miami card either. I think that I keep saying Miami, but I don't think we can live in a world where Bilal, Usman, Covington, and Masvidal are all on the same card. I don't think that's possible. I don't think we can.
And Gary,
we can't do that. If you like chaos, that's the move right there. Just putting all the welterweights that hate each other on one card and just make it like, I know they did the heavyweight card that one time. Just do a welterweight card. Everyone that hates each other, raise your hand, and then we'll just book you round robin style. I think the Covington Gilbert Burns fight is, I also think that makes sense for both of their careers. Gilbert's on the downslide of his career. He just lost 2 fights to up and coming guys. Colby Covington's lost to Leon. He just lost to Joaquin Buckley, a guy who was on the rise too. This should be a loser leaves town match. Like, if you can't get past Gilbert, maybe it's time to hang up. If you can't get past Colby, maybe it's time to hang it up, and the winner gets to wring a little more juice out of their career. And they don't run the risk of, I know I just said, like, if Colby had beaten Buckley, he'd be right there for a title shot. If Gilbert Burns had beaten Sean Brady, he'd probably be right there for a title shot. I would like to see all of these fresh matchups that we haven't seen before play out. So I think Colby and I don't know off the top of my head, but I would hazard a guess that Colby and Gilbert are ranked relatively close, if not right next to each other on the UFC's ranking. So I think that makes sense meritocracy-wise as well.
Yeah, Gilbert, well played with the Chael thing. Well played by
Sure.
Chael as well, just having fun with it. It got Colby's attention. He wants the Burns fight. That one has grown on me because now we're getting a story attached to it. I don't mind the Wonder Boy fight. I don't mind Tony Ferguson if they want to go that route.
Oh, God.
And
No thanks.
I don't mind Michael. Like if Michael Chiesa fights in Seattle and wins, I don't mind Michael Chiesa getting that fight. So I think these are the kinds of matchups we're looking at for Colby. I don't think he's fighting Carlos Prates
I
anytime
don't want.
soon or
Yeah,
anybody like that.
I don't want to see Colby versus Prates or Michael Morales or Brady or JDM or any of these, guys that are blitzing through the division.
Yeah. All right. Well, we promised you an award show preview, and that's what we're going to do. We will have awards starting next week. We will have a show discussing how we got to all of this, but there are a number of people who will be voting for these awards. So, as we do every year in this program, bring the panel in. We reveal our top 5 for these awards and kind of let you know what we are thinking and kind of a teaser for what we're about to do. So, we'll start with KO of the year. We'll go to the submission of the year, fight of the year, and then fighter of the year will be the last one we discuss because that's probably the most contentious one of all of these awards right now. But let's get right into it, and we'll start with the 2024 knockout of the year. There's a lot of really good nominations. There's a lot of good options here, Jose, but we could only go with 5. So let's just have you run them down from 5 to 1. How did you rank the 2024 knockouts of the year?
Holloway Gaethje number 1. I think that's a pretty much no brainer unless you're someone on the internet that likes to be facetious and just push back for no reason. Because it's just like, I mean, if it was not the most technically spectacular knockout. It was not an Edson Barboza spinning back kick. It was not, who's the guy that knocked out Matt Frevola with the standing knee? Oh my God,
Fares Zayem.
Like those were incredible martial arts. Those were incredible displays of martial arts. Like just unbelievable technique, unbelievable knockouts. But Justin Gaethje is one of the greatest fighters of all time, one of the greatest lightweights of all time. Max Holloway is one of the greatest fighters of all time. It's UFC 300. Level of competition matters, especially, and I think that matters across the board, unless it's just something out of control. Like if someone on the prelims of an LFA card knocks someone out with a rolling thunder, that's your knockout of the year. But in a fight like this, where it was a bar fight, as Ilia called it. It was not the most technically gifted fight, if you know what you're watching, it was pretty spectacular technically too. But for the layman, man, it probably didn't look that great because Max Holloway shattering Justin Gaethje's nose with a spinning back kick to the body that Justin Gaethje leaned into was amazing to watch, and that kind of set the tone for the entire fight. And it's just like that's a knockout we're going to see for the rest of time. Max Holloway has made like anytime they're like Dan Henderson, his logo is him doing a flying hammer fist to Michael Bisping. Like Jorge Masvidal's logo is him hitting that flying knee on Ben Askren. Max Holloway's new logo is the point down, like it's the fist with the point down. It had everything. It was UFC 300. It was a 600K bonus. It was the point down. It was Justin Gaethje obliging. It was how many times have you seen Justin Gaethje in a war and say, how did he walk through that one? Like if you like the Michael Johnson fight, the 2 Luis Palomino fights, the Chandler fights, the Poirier fights, like Justin Gaethje is always in these wars, and Max Holloway knocked out the man with the iron chin. By no means was it the most technically gifted knockout, but it just checked all my boxes. So am I just running them down? Am I just going 1 through 5? Is that what we're doing, or am I giving you your turn to talk to?
Yeah, you can go. I mean, I think a lot of us are going to be in agreement with Holloway Gaethje.
Number 2 on my original list was Eddie Hall knocking out the Nefati bros. But
I love that picks, by the way.
But y'all are lame and told me I couldn't put that number 2. I don't care how big of a human being you are. You beat 2 people in one fight, and one of them is by a power slam, and one of them is by a straight right that melts a dude. I mean, that's The Holloway knockout was the best knockout of the year. My most watched MMA video of the year was that. But y'all are lame, and I was told I couldn't pick that. And then it comes down. So number 2 for me came down to one of the. Everyone put a lot of people put Topuria knocking out Volk number 2, and I will not argue with that. And I'm not talking about just MMA fighting, just people across the board. That knockout was higher. I was more impressed with Topuria's knockout of Holloway, because Holloway had not only had Holloway never been knocked out, he had never been knocked down. And it's the same thing. Max Holloway, Ilia Topuria was after the Volkanovski fight. A lot of people kind of circled that as the fight they were most excited for the most. And not only did Topuria deliver, he basically threw a perfect game in one of the best fights you'll see, and then knocked out the man that had never been knocked down in devastating fashion. Also said he was going to do it. Like, not since Conor have we seen a guy that confident and also deliver. So that was number 2 for me. Well, it should have been number 3, but it was number 2. 4 was the Oliveira Sopai knockout. That one was unbelievable. I love me a highlight reel finish from that was a highlight reel knockout that was also technically beautiful. And then the Pereira Hill fight, again, I won't argue if you thought the Yuri Prohaska knockout was better, but I just thought the Alex Pereira, getting UFC 300, short notice, low blow, waves the ref off, left hook or right hook, whichever it was, does the celebration. That's just kind of become iconic for Alex Pereira. And I think of all the knockouts he's had, that's the one we're going to look at the most. Yeah, the flying knee in his debut was spectacular. The Sean Strickland was spectacular. The Israel TKO was great. But I think the one we're going to see at the end of that's going to be like his front kick to Vitor from Anderson. Like, Anderson's had a lot of spectacular knockouts, but that's the one that's always on the replays. And then number 5 for me was Topuria KOing Volk. That was so impressive to me. Like, I thought Volk was. I think if you go back and watch our preview show, I said I have a lot of questions about Topuria. He might be the best fighter in the world, but he just hasn't shown me them yet. And that wasn't an insult to him. That was just, he's made things look so easy. He hasn't shown his whole package. And Volk coming off the knockout loss to Islam just puts it at 5 to me. That's why I'm more impressed with the Holloway knockout. But the Volk knockout, just knockouts against the fence where you sit down, where you're the guy that gets knocked out, doesn't fly down, he just sits, is just aesthetically a cool scene to me. So that was my number 5.
Yeah, I get everything you're saying. Shout out to Eddie Hall. That dude rules.
Oh, that dude's so love it.
Yeah, I've Holloway number 1. I mean, come on. Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill number 2 at UFC 300. Because, I mean, flip a coin at this point. All of them are awesome. To me, it's just like, if I close my eyes, which one comes to mind first? It's definitely that one. Helped Alex Pereira a lot, and it's become the story of Jamal Hill ever since. Ilia Topuria versus Volkanovski is number 3. Poirier versus Benoit Saint-Denis at UFC 299 is number 4. That was an incredible knockout. And then I'm with you on Vinicius Oliveira versus Sopai, UFC Vegas 87 in March. What a knockout that was. I just don't want people to forget that one when you're putting your list together, because Loke Dog is an absolute savage. And that was absolutely, may not have had the stakes as these other fights, but in terms of like UFC knockouts, that was one of the best of the year without question.
I think Oliveira is going to be on the short list for, like, if you had to make predictions, he'd be on the short list for like a breakthrough fighter of the year next year. Because then his follow-up to the knockout, he won, and then he goes, I want to fight Umar. And I was like, God bless. God bless.
Dude is, what a year he had. What a year he had. There's a lot of great rookie campaigns. We're not going to talk rookie of the year because it's pretty obvious who's going to win rookie of the year. And I don't even need to reveal it because it's pretty damn obvious. We got the knockout out of the way. Let's go to submission of the year. I will go first here. Number 5, we are exiting the UFC and we are heading to the wonderful world of the Professional Fighters League. Going to June of this year. We're going to the Bellator Women's Flyweight Champion, Liz Carmouche, who is about to lose to Kana Watanabe. And she gets an armbar with 8 seconds left in the fight to win it and advance to the playoffs. Liz Carmouche gets the number 5 spot. Number 4, Brian Ortega versus Yair Rodriguez. Again, another comeback submission victory. Number 3, I see a lot of people forgetting this one, and I'm not really sure why. UFC 305, the middleweight champion of the world, Dricus du Plessis, submitting Israel Adesanya. Number 2, Islam Makhachev successfully defending the UFC lightweight title in a terrific fight against Dustin Poirier at UFC 302. But for me, Jose, number 1 goes to Khamzat Chimaev for the teeth shattering. I don't even know what to call that. The rear naked teeth shatterer submission of Robert Whittaker. And this wasn't against some crumb bum. This wasn't against some dude making his UFC debut. This is against Robert freaking Whittaker. And he just mauled this man and then he broke his face. So to me, that is the number 1 submission of the year. What say you?
Yeah, I'll start number 5 too. I thought it was Vince Morales. Was it Vince Morales? Yeah, Vince Morales over Hunter Azure, the Peruvian necktie. I'm a sucker for Peruvian neckties. It was my favorite submission back in UFC Undisputed 3, which remains the best UFC video game of all time. That was always the one I learned first, and it's just such a metal nickname too. It's also late in the fight, if I remember correctly, in the UFL, the United Fighters League, if I remember that acronym correctly. So that's number 5 to me, just because the second it happened, the second I saw the highlight, I'm like, well, that's in my top 5. Just matters where it is because I'm a sucker for the Peruvian necktie. Number 4, agree with everything you said. DDP Israel Adesanya down in Perth. I was there for that fight. I just don't think it gets enough. People aren't thinking about it enough. I saw a lot of people picking Israel to win. They thought that Sean Strickland fight was just a bad night in the office, and he was finally 100% healthy. He was going to run through Dricus. Dricus, for as awkward a dude as he is, grabbed Israel and choked him out fair and square. Islam Poirier, I thought was incredibly impressive. I was there for that fight too, because I've said this a million times. You can be the most technically gifted fighter in the world, but I think your ability to fight through pain is such an underrated and overlooked aspect of the fight game, and that fight was a war. That fight was a slog of a fight. Both guys are bloody. Both guys were having spectacular moments in there. The fact that Islam got the fight, got the Darce choke, and according to him, put Poirier to sleep after, grabbing his foot, and I'm not even going to try to name. I don't know the name of his takedown. I thought that was just a technically beautiful submission, a technically beautiful takedown into a technically beautiful submission in the later rounds of an incredible war. And then number 2 for me was Brian Ortega choking out Yair Rodriguez, because Brian Ortega basically fought on one foot after stomping his ankle into the ground in the introductions, got dropped a whole bunch of times, and then grabbed his neck and choked out Yair. And if you look at our slacks, there was a lot of like, oh man, Yair versus Ilia is going to be great. Oh, Yair's putting it on him. And then Brian just goes, nah, grabbed his neck, choked him out. And then again, Khamzat Whittaker for me is number 1. Similar to what I said about Gaethje Holloway. Might not have been the most technically beautiful submission, but its level of competition. Had a million questions about Khamzat. How would he look after the sicknesses, the long layoff? A lot of us, including myself, said Robert Whittaker might just be the best middleweight in the world after he rattled off all those incredibly impressive performances, especially Ikram Al-Skaraf in Saudi. And it was not a war. Khamzat made that look so easy. And anytime you shatter a man's teeth with your forearm, God bless. God bless. So yeah, Khamzat Whittaker to me is number 1.
What an absolute beast. What a performance. Yeah. And
very
hopefully he's a little more active in 2025. Let's go to fight of the year, Jose. And by the way, for those, I see some super chats in there, some questions. We'll take a few questions at the end of the program. Let's talk fight of the year, Jose. Again, a lot of great options, not just in the UFC, but outside of it as well. What's your top 5 for fight of the year?
Fight of the year. Number 1 for me was Holloway Gaethje. 5-round fight, UFC 300. Like I said, back and forth bar fight. I was there for UFC 300, and it was one of those fights where, yeah, Gaethje shattered his nose right out of the gate with that spinning back fist, but Justin Gaethje is a guy that you just seems to like get better as the fight goes on. And he always has that ability to turn your lights out or just do damage. So my heart rate, I don't know what it was, obviously, but if I was wearing a heart monitor, he was high. I remember being very stressed that entire fight, and it was just 300. So for me, that was the most memorable. That's number one. And I know we started at number 5 for the submissions, but I'm starting at number 1 because I already talked enough
All
about
right.
Holloway Gaethje. That's number 1. Number 2, which I think not enough people are talking about, which it's a fight that not people moved on too quickly from, and that was Zell Huber versus Reavovich.
Let's
That is
go.
on that is on the short list for best 3-round fights I have ever been at. I was there. That fight card, as beautiful as the Sphere was and as historic a moment as that event was, that fight card was not great, especially on the main card. And it wasn't great for Mexican fighters on Mexican Independence Day. And yes, Zell Huber came up short, the Mexican guy they were promoting. But man, that fight alone, that entire place was shaking. That whole Sphere was coming unhinged. I do not know how Daniel Zellhuber didn't go down when he was just getting teed off of in that final round. And it's one of those rare occurrences where, like, when they made that fight, I'm like, I don't really like that fight. These are two really high level prospects. I don't want them to fight right now. But it's that rare instance where it happens, and I think eventually they will rematch. They have to, because that fight is going to be linked. They're going to be linked together forever, and they're still so talented. And when Reavovich was asked about that at his post-fight press conference, like, do you think you'll rematch because of how important this moment was for the two of you? And he got really emotional. He was like kind of tearing up. He's like, I'm 100% rematching Daniel Zellhuber. That's number 2. If it was a 5-round fight, it probably would have been number 1. Makhachev Poirier, talked about it enough. Two very high-level martial artists just beating the soul out of each other and just continuing. Their technique did not waver even in the face of pain. That was a weird sentence I said, but I stand by it. Number 4, Pereira Roundtree. I don't see that fight a lot on a lot of people's fight of the years either. I don't see that fight either. Just I think because Pereira has had 2 spectacular performances. Pereira coming in kind of sick and injured, Khalil being like, a lot of people overlooked him, and him not only hurting but dropping Pereira with beautiful technique. It wasn't like when he clipped him with that, like, it was supposed to be like a hook, but he caught him with, it was more like a clothesline. It's because he slipped Pereira's punch and then came in with a hook. Like, all of that was just, it was just setups and counters, and it was a beautiful performance, an absolutely beautiful performance from both men. It was just a striker's delight. And then 5, again, don't think enough people talk about it, and I was there for that, was Chris Cyborg, Larissa Pacheco. Those ladies beat the shit out of each other. I sat cage side for that in Saudi. When you did your like town hall thing with Don Davis, and you were like, what's your favorite MMA fight? And he didn't really have one. And I was like, dude, you just like say Cyborg Pacheco. Because, like, yes, the Johnny Emblem fight was when he fought Impa, right? At the beginning of the year. On the champions versus champions card. That was a great fight too. That was the best PFL fight of the year until Cyborg Pacheco. I think Cyborg Pacheco is the best women's fight of the year, and I think it deserves to have a spotlight on it. Larissa was on, the face of the PFL's women's division. She had just been Kayla Harrison. Chris Cyborg had been calling for this fight for so long. A lot of people thought she maybe she gets a little older. This is Larissa's time to take over. And those ladies just stood in the center of the octagon, the center of the smart cage, and just beat the shit out of each other. That was a fun fight. I think, and obviously rightfully so, it was overshadowed by Francis Ngannou's emotional return after the death of his son and losing those boxing matches. But Cyborg Pacheco, I think, deserves to have the spotlight on it because that fight slapped.
Great pick. That was my pick. That was my number 5 for a few hours yesterday, and then I went back and watched it again, and it definitely delivered. And then I watched another fight, and I ended up picking this one over it. By the way, shout out to both of those ladies. That fight saved that entire card because we were in Slog City, and that one got us out of there,
yeah.
which is pretty sweet. Number 5 goes to a PFL fight, but it is not that one. PFL Europe 3. It is Lewis McGrillen Evans versus Dean Garnett. Holy shitballs. If you have not watched this fight, it is absolutely insane. I highly recommend you go do so. This just by a nose got over the Chris Cyborg Larissa Pacheco fight. Number 4, shout out to Dustin Poirier, because he's on this list twice. Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint-Denis.
That was
all,
my number,
8
that's
minutes
my
of
number
that
6.
fight?
That's my number 6 one. I had a real tough time picking between that and Larissa Pacheco and Cyborg.
Oh, such a good fight. Shout out to Dustin Poirier. He just makes this list so many times. Number 3 is Daniel Zellhuber versus Esteban Ribovic. So good. Round 3 is one of the best rounds you will ever see.
That's my round of the year if that was a category.
100%. 100%. It's just unbelievable. So that's my number 3. Makhachev Poirier is number 2, and then Gaethje Holloway's number 1. And I saw some people on social media being like, oh, that's kind of lazy. Holloway beat his ass. The fight wasn't even competitive. It was more of the Holloway show than the Gaethje show. And here's what I will say to you people. I highly recommend you go back and watch that fight again, because it is a much different watch the second time around, because when you're watching it live and the build up to it, and as Jose said, and he was in the freaking building watching it, it is stressful watching it live, because just everything that has been built up to this moment, and to see it all sort of deliver the way that it did, it's very tense. But when you take all the emotion out of it and rewatch it, you realize that this isn't a one-way traffic fight. No. Justin Gaethje is very competitive in this fight. In fact, one of the judges had it tied 2-2 heading into round 5. And when I first heard that the day of UFC 300, I was like, this is a terrible scorecard. But when you take the emotion out of it and just watch it for what it is, you realize, you know what? It might have been 2-2, because that second round is incredibly close.
Awesome fight.
So good. Like, it is a terrific fight. And Justin Gaethje dropped Max Holloway. It wasn't counted as a knockdown, but Max Holloway showed up at the damn press conference and said, yeah, that MFer dropped me. I was dropped. It's official. In the Max Holloway books of whether I was dropped or not in a fight, he dropped me. He got me. That's the first time it's ever happened. And Holloway admitted it. It's a much closer fight than people gave it credit for the night of. And I'm telling you, go back and watch it. It is not, Holloway looks spectacular. No doubt about it. But to say that this was Buckley Covington is just not true. It just isn't. So it's my fight of the year. It's the one I remember the most. It's the one that I built up so big in my head, and then in my eyes, it delivered, especially the ending. And the ending has to play some factor into it. Yeah. It has to be the cherry on top of the sundae. So to me, I don't think it's a lazy pick. I think it's a great pick, and it's my pick, and it's Jose's pick, and it's probably other picks as well. Terrific fight.
Beautiful fight.
It's a beautiful fight. Let's go to fighter of the year, then we'll talk to the peeps. I'll go first, Jose, because I want to start at number 5, because there is not a soul on planet Earth that would have believed me if I said, hey, guess what? It's March 30th, 2024. This guy is going to be in my top 5 for fighter of the year. You would have said, Mike, I'll bet a floppity jillion dollars that statement you just made is not true. Well, then you would have lost a floppity jillion dollars, because number 5 is Joaquin Buckley. Yeah. Holy shitballs. Joaquin Buckley, number 5, fighter of the year after this win over Colby Covington. 4-0. At worst, he's 1 win away from a title shot after having maybe the worst start to the year that I've ever seen. Just with the call-outs and the double downs and just his attitude overall. This is a guy who did the thing all year. He listened to the critics. He listened to our shows. He listened to the feedback, both good and bad. And then he turned it around. He listened to the public, and he got his shit together and delivered in the cage, delivered on the mic. Everything about Joaquin Buckley the second half of 2024 was chef's kiss. So shout out to that guy. And I'm telling you, Jamal Hill, call this man. Get on a Zoom. Do whatever you need to do. Just shadow him for a month and just do whatever Joaquin Buckley has been doing, because you need to do exactly that to figure this whole thing out. So Joaquin Buckley, number 5, unreal. Number 4, the UFC flyweight champion of the world, Alexander Pantoja, war with Steve Erceg, just runs over Kaya Sakura, best performance of his career, just wiped the man out. Dude's so good at fighting. I think he's the most underrated fighter on the roster. He's incredible. He gets my number 4 spot. Number 3, the UFC middleweight champion, Dricus du Plessis, beat Sean Strickland in a super competitive fight. I actually rewatched his fight with Strickland. That could have made a top 5 list as well. Super close competitive fight. Much different than some of the other fights that are on the list, but it's just about as close of a fight as you will watch. Excellent fight. And then he goes out there and has a great fight with Israel Adesanya, which if you put that on your top 5, I wouldn't have had a problem with that either. And he goes out there and finishes them. So DDP number 2, number 3. And then we get to the 1 and 2. Is it Ilia Topuria, who went 2-0 with 2 big knockouts, winning the title against Volkanovski and then knocking out Max Holloway 6-8 months later? Or is it the MVP of the UFC, Alex Pereira, the light heavyweight champion, knocks out Jamal Hill, knocks out Yuri Prochazka, saves the UFC on those 2 cards, and then probably saves them again by fighting Khalil Roundtree at UFC 307 in Salt Lake City. Tough fight. Then he batters Khalil Roundtree in one of the most harrowing 4th rounds you'll ever watch. Just the beating he inflicted on Khalil Roundtree. 3-0 versus 2-0. A lot to like on both sides. But for me, it's quality over quantity, Jose. The fighter of the year, in my eyes, is Ilia Topuria. Knocking out Volkanovski and then turning around and knocking out Max Holloway. Just incredible. Like, I'm so impressed with what this man has done. Not that I'm not impressed with Alex Pereira, but just the quality of victory that Ilia Topuria has put on for the fans this year and for the MMA community. Those 2 knockouts in particular, to me, those 2 supersede even the things that Alex Pereira has done. There is a difference to me, Jose, between fighter of the year and like the most valuable fighter. And Pereira is the most valuable fighter. He saved the UFC's ass multiple times. But Ilia Topuria to me was the best fighter in the UFC in 2024, especially with the results here. What's your top 5?
So I'll start number 5, Carlos Prates, which I think a lot of people, it's default kind of rookie of the year. Anytime you can blitz through people in rapid succession in the calendar year when you debut, smoke a pack of cigarettes right off into the sunset, and rinse and repeat. I'm all about it. Diego Lopez is just number 4 for me, is just that dude. Anytime you think like, oh, short notice fight, oh, turn around, fight at MSG, like fight Brian Ortega, get booked, like change the weight class 24 hours before the fight, change opponents 3 hours before the fight. Like, that's what it's all about, man. I think Diego Lopez just kind of needs some sort of spotlight on him, because that dude just is such an exciting dude and such a nice guy. It's the difference between niceness and violence. It doesn't get much bigger than Diego Lopez. Number 3 for me, Dricus. Agree with you on everything you said about him. Sean Strickland, underrated fight, very close fight, and then goes out there and chokes Israel Adesanya in Perth. I think anytime you beat anytime you claim the title and then beat a guy many people consider one of, if not the best middleweight of all time. I have a number 2 after Anderson Silva. I think he would even agree with that in Israel Adesanya. Needs some sort of spotlight. Number 2, Alex Pereira. Saved the UFC a bunch of times. Probably has the best highlight reel of 2024. But Ilia Topuria is number 1 for me. Knocking out Max Holloway, a guy like I don't have to tell you, never been knocked down. Max Holloway never been knocked down before, let alone knocked out. Ilia Topuria just goes, I'm going to knock this dude out, and I'm going to make it look easy. And he did exactly that. Said the same thing to Volkanovski, ripped the belt away from him at the press conference, took photos with the title before they even fought, and then goes out there and stops Volkanovski in devastating fashion. I don't know if that's the best back-to-back wins of all time in the history of mixed martial arts. Off the top of my head, it's very clearly top 5, maybe top 3, maybe top 2. I think BJ Penn, rear naked choking Domi and Matt Hughes back-to-back might be better, because I think that there was a point in time when you could argue that BJ Penn was the best lightweight and welterweight in the world off of those 2 performances. But the fact that we're having this conversation, that those might be the greatest back-to-back wins ever in MMA history, says it all. He's my that's why he's my fighter of the year pick for sure.
Yeah, it's so wild because that was one of the conversations that came out of that fight was
Yeah.
where do we rank this back to back?
It's top
And
5. Off the top of my head, I know this is going to be a
100%.
tangent, but Rampage beating Chuck and then beating, not dethroning Chuck and then unifying the Pride Belt against Hendo back to back in 07 was super impressive. Randy beating Chuck and then just melting Tito was very impressive. The BJ Penn one. And am I missing one? GSP beating.
John Jones anywhere
Well,
in
the John
2011,
Jones, I
2012.
don't think they were like, yes, they were good, but like the Rashad Evans fight was not anything. Like, we don't talk about the Rashad Evans fight. We talk about the Lyoto fight. We talk about the Rampage fight. We talk about the Bader
Talk
fight.
about yeah, Bader Shogun is probably like where I
It
would
is.
look
It's
because
up
it
there,
happened in
but
what, a
like,
2-month stretch.
but GSP beating, beating BJ, who at the time was probably pound for pound best, and then head kicking Matt Hughes. Like, those are, to me, those are more, both of those wins are more impressive than Ryan Bader. And I love Ryan. Ryan is legitimately one of my best friends. He's a guy that I can't cover. But, and then John, this probably, Ilia's probably top 5. John, probably, I'd put 6 or 7. But the fact that we're just having this conversation, Ilia, like, entering 2024 was not a champion. Now we're talking about him in the same breath as Matt Hughes, BJ Penn, John Jones. Like, these are Mount Rushmore MMA. And if he does it at lightweight, then God bless.
Well, there you have it. There are Jose and I's picks. Jose kind of, I mean, rookie of the year has got to be Carlos Prates. There's just nobody else. Like, shout out to Fighting Nerds that like 3 of the top 5 that I would have voted for from that gym. So yeah, hell of a year for those guys. Hell of a year for Prates. Gian Silva, shout out to him. He would have been my number 2. So yeah, let's bring Casey in. Let's bring in the peeps. Oh, he's got the spectacles.
The official spectacle. I got these. These were handed out by the head coach at the World MMA Awards, and he handed me and Fabiano a pair.
Nice. Shout out to Fabiano. Saw him in Tampa last weekend. Just
he was my +1 to the World MMA Awards.
Oh, that's amazing.
Because I had an extra ticket.
All right, let's bring Casey in. Let's talk to the peeps. Hi, Casey. Public Enemy Tank on.
Casey, what's your 5 favorite Public Enemy songs?
My first one is 911. I forget what the song's called. 911 is a joke now. What's the? I forgot the title of it.
We'll figure it out.
The 911 one. I forget that one.
I think it's called 911 is a joke.
Okay. Yeah. That's always my go-to. That's still on my workout list. And the ones I always go back and still
on Rebel Without a Pause.
Yeah, Rebel.
And I still
love the I can't remember the names now. The Anthrax collab. Bring the noise. Bring the noise.
Yeah.
It's
Fight Power.
That's not Bring the Noise frustrates me because rap rock is a thing and can be done well, but it's just never done well, except once or twice every century. But it can be done well.
It's because neither person changed. It was just Anthrax going insane in the background while Public Enemy.
All right.
I've seen Public Enemy live.
So have I.
They hopped in at a river rave at Gillette Stadium.
Love that.
And they did 2 songs, and they filmed one for a music video because that was gonna be like their comeback album. And then we never heard from him again. So that was it. That was a fun little surprise from good old Public Enemy.
I saw Chuck D perform with Wu-Tang Clan in LA.
Ooh.
And it sounds great, but it was terrible.
Okay.
I love Wu-Tang is obviously unbelievable. They're awful live. They're awful live. There's 700 people on stage screaming. It's not great.
It's like a Wu-Tang concert's like after a boxing match and everyone in the arena gets in the ring and you're like, you're looking for the hand raise, you don't know where to look.
That's Method Man in the background laughing.
Yeah.
I've seen them live 4 times and I never learned my lesson.
I remember going to some hip hop show and they have like a videographer and he was on stage and he's just like dancing and bouncing with the camera in his hand. I'm like, bro, that footage is not going to be usable. All right. Here we go. What we got here? Questions. Oh, we got one super chat. It's a question. So, I mean, it's a heavy question, but we'll go ahead and hit it.
Tanvir, any opinions on Colby's pager comments towards Bilal? Why didn't the media hold him accountable?
Pass.
Because it's dumb.
That shit is lame,
Yeah,
dude.
it's
I'm not
just- it was
bringing.
dumb.
I'm not bringing spotlight to that.
Yeah,
I-
and
I-
that's the answer to the
that-
question right there.
Yeah.
That's the answer to the question.
If it was
you
a
sit there
one-on-one,
and
if it's a one-on-one, by all means, be like, that's fucked up. But like, I'm not doing that at media day. That's fucked up.
No,
Yeah.
and
yeah,
all you're doing is it's just going to get worse and worse. So
Yeah.
leave
To
it alone.
answer, yeah, and to answer you, sir, I hated it, and it would be like Jose said, but almost Colby said that because he wanted the interaction. He wanted he wanted that confrontation, and I don't think anyone in the room felt like giving him
I don't think Colby even fully understands what he says.
that too.
I think he heard that and he goes, "I'm going to say that." It's like when he he said something. Oh, it's like when he kept calling Masvidal Fidel Castro. I'm like, you don't know what you're saying. You just heard these words and you're repeating them. Like, you do not know what you are saying.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I brought that up to Jorge, and Jorge got mad at me. I'm like, why are you mad at me? I didn't say it. Like, I just want to know. My question was, do you think he knows what he's saying? And the answer is no.
Okay, but thank you, Tanvir. All right, do you we didn't have a category for this, but what are some gems of the years, gentlemen?
Fighting nerds.
Fighting nerds.
Fighting nerds is gym of the year without question.
Is that a team? What is Fighting Nerds exactly? Is it a team? Where are they based out of? Is it Sao Paulo?
I think they are in Sao Paulo. They're obviously in Brazil. It's Flavio Alvaro, I think that's his name, and Pablo. Not gonna Pablo something. It's Pablo and Flavio are the two head coaches, and they just it's not and Cal Bohelio's like he travels to every single fight basically because I think he's the only one that fully knows English, so he acts as a translator a lot, and he's in all of their corners. Just Gene Silva, Bruno Brazil, Carlos Prates, Thiago Moises, like they're just they win and they win exciting, and and I don't know how long the gym's been around so I apologize if it's not new, but 2024. Whenever one of their fighters would fight, I'm like, oh, this might be the time that they lose, and they just don't. They just kept winning.
Yeah,
they just kept winning.
I would slightly.
They ain't done either. They got more. They got more coming up.
Oh, dude! If you had like,
hey, do you see Natalia Alves? Natalia Alves is a fighter to watch. When Guilherme, so good.
I hope Guilherme does that prospects to watch for in Brazil for 2025. I bet a big chunk of them are from Fighting Nerds.
Yep.
Yeah. I would definitely say they're like kind of breakthrough gym of the year, but like I feel like we're almost tired of giving it to ATT. I mean, how many top 10 fighters, how many champions does ATT still have?
But yeah, I get what you're saying. I just think Fighting Nerds' winning percentage was just so high. So I guess.
Oh no, I know. I'm not trying to say they were like overrated or anything like that. I think I'm more like just like ATT has just been so consistently great year after year after year. We kind of forget about it.
Yeah,
that's all. Just because, but Fighting Nerds definitely their gimmick, chef's kiss, everything about them is great. Yeah,
they feel like a real. Like this is going to be bad to say, and I don't want to disrespect ATT because it's very clearly the best. I think ATT is the best gym in the world. A lot of guys go there; they don't live there. They're just like they show up for training camp and they bail. Like Fighting Nerds, they seem to just travel as a team all the time.
No, agree. Yeah.
Like when Gene Silva and Carlos Prates fight, like half the gym is backstage. Like Cal Bohelio flew to Manchester he wasn't even in her corner to like watch Bruno Brazil fight Molly McCann, and then went back and like Bruno Brazil was like, I want to speak English, and Kyle like you couldn't see it, but he was standing at the steps of the press conference translating, like helping her get through English. They really seem to all care about each other.
Okay. Thank you. What else we got here? Oh, got super chat just came in. All right.
George, how much has fighting evolved since GSP's prime era? And would prime GSP still beat all current welterweights? If not, where would you rank him amongst the top welterweights? So let's just say, Jose, in this weird world, we get prime GSP out of the time machine and he walks in and he is inserted into the UFC's welterweight division. And he says, I am prime GSP. I am now officially on the roster as a welterweight. Where are you ranking him right now? Prime GSP in this current slate of welterweights.
I guess what era is prime GSP?
That's a great question.
Because like GSP never really slowed down. He got hurt and retired. Like was it when he beat Matt Hughes to his retirement? Because that just felt like one long prime. Because even when he got hurt and he came back and it was Carlos Condit, the Carlos Condit fight is, I think, people talk about greatest fights of all time.
That's a great fight too.
One of the best fights you'll ever see. Just people, it's not even Carlos Condit's best fight, and I think that's what overshadows it. But I mean,
that fight's so good because you realize GSP is not only great, he is tough.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
the ability to fight through pain is what separates, like the John Jones Gustafsson fight, the GSP Carlos Condit fight. Like you need those type of fights to just kind of cement your legacy. And prime GSP, because it's tough because he's kind of the blueprint for a lot of these. Like a lot of people just took his game, like took his skill set and like refined it, if that's even possible. I think of all the people in that era, GSP would have the best success if you took him. Like prime Anderson Silva would probably not have the greatest time against Hamzat or the greatest time against Dricus. I'm sure he would find massive success, but we don't know because this is also a science fiction question, which is impossible to do. But like I would favor Kamaru Usman against prime Matt Hughes. I don't think I would favor Kamaru Usman against prime GSP, is what I'm trying to say. GSP's also just a master game planner.
Yeah,
like
I think
because people forget George was a karate guy that learned how to wrestle, and then he became the best wrestler.
Yeah,
and then just fought Josh Koscheck, who was an incredible wrestler, and he just beat the shit out of him on his feet.
Jab.
GSP is so good. I don't know, man. That's tough. But like, is Shavkat just like this next evolution? I know that Ian fight was tough, but Shavkat's still good.
Yeah. GSP. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, if he was trained, he came out around today and had the modern skills everyone has. Actually, we just released, I think, an interview of Cub Swanson. He has if you watch it, great interview with Damon Martin, and Cub said something really interesting. Yeah, Cub said something interesting about like how he had to evolve over the sport over the years, and like he's like when I started the sport, like the De La Riva guard didn't even exist. There was no one was doing the Z guard, and like how he had to evolve as a fighter to kind of maintain himself as an elite featherweight. And I totally believe GSP would have done the same thing to an even higher degree. So when he came around in that moment, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, he was the best. And I believe if he came out now, he would adapt with all the new grappling techniques and stuff, and he would still be an elite welterweight.
You said 10 years ago ago, GSP retired.
Jeez, yeah.
November 2013 was his first retirement. 10 years ago, GSP had announced his retirement.
That was the Johnny Hendricks fight? That was it? Yeah.
And then he fought Michael Bisping in 2017. So, like, we're not far away from 10 years being his second returnement.
The fact that we're still talking about him 10 years, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. The guy who beat Jake Shields and then was out for like almost 2 years before he fought Carlos Condit.
April and November, yeah.
Yeah, you take that guy who's like recovering from injury and like insert him into the current welterweight division where he has all that time to just watch fights and build the brain power, and then being able, once he's healed up from the injuries, being able to get into the gym with Faraz and Greg Jackson and get a game plan going for a Bilal or a Shavkat. That would be incredibly fascinating if we could somehow pull that shit off.
Something so impressed me about GSP too this is my last thing on GSP, I promise, is like he beat Jake Shields when that was like Strikeforce coming over. and then he came back, and the WEC was there. Like, he basically just went through 3 promotions in like 2 years. Like, beat Jake Shields, beat Condit, beat Nick Diaz, beat Johnny Hendricks. Like, people forget, before the Jake Shields fight, I think that was the Josh Kostick jab fest. And before that, it was when Dan Hardy decided his arm was made of gum and just wouldn't tap. Like, GSP has beaten a multitude of eras in a multitude of promotions. What Pantoja just did, GSP did with like 3 different promotions.
Yeah.
GSP.
Question.
This man.
He was pretty good. I'm going to go on a limb.
You know what? You know what? Some say the best.
Some might say that.
Not going to argue it. Yeah.
You can't.
Thank you much. All right.
Sheila, I cannot send a super chat. I'm using YouTube Premium, so my payment method details are correct. I'm using mobile. Can anybody here help me?
Sheila, I have absolutely no idea.
I'm so sorry, Sheila. We love Sheila, but YouTube, get it together. Mike needs his iced coffee. Sheila wants to donate to the fund. So
yes, Mike needs his iced coffees. I already drank mine this morning. Could use the second one.
Hey, Sheila, yeah.
One of those weeks.
Somebody mentioned in the comments, maybe it's not a high enough dollar amount. So, hey, just saying. All right, thank you much.
AZ Ray videos. Will UFC co-promote with Ryzen? What is the benefit to Ryzen of the UFC potentially bringing the atomweight division to their promotion? How does that benefit Ryzen?
For answer the first question, is never.
No.
The UFC will never co-promote with anybody.
It was interesting that I know not co-promote 100%, but Ryzen did seem to give footage of Kai for the promotion. I wonder if there was anything given back. Maybe like fighters, I don't know, footage. I'm not sure. Just kind of wondering.
I also think that Saki Kabara gets it. He's like there is a reason. There is a reason when Dana White bought Pride. Part of the agreement was Saki Kabara would not promote fights for 10 years. Because like Dana goes, this is the guy that almost put me out of business with Pride. He gets it. Like, maybe if he didn't get any money, it's like, oh, the highlight reel package played on a UFC pay-per-view might bring all these extra eyeballs. And Dana White has always had positive things to say about Saki Kabara. He even said, caught me completely off guard, he goes, the battle with Pride was the best times of his life. I think was Dana White's exact thing. So Saki Kabara gets it. Super nice guy too. I've interviewed him a few times. The atomweight division, I don't know. I'll see it when I believe it. Honestly, I will believe it when I see it.
Yep.
Yeah. Benefits Ryzen. Yeah. I hope they do, but yeah, I've been hoping that for a while. So
UFC barely knows how to promote their flyweights. You want to throw in some atomweights in there? It's an unfortunate answer, but it is what it is.
Is what it is. All right. Thank you, AZ Ray. All right. From Mr. This is for Jose because he was in the arena.
Did Mike and Jose agree with Bisping on the show when he said Colby's entrance?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was Mike that was there, not Jose. Yeah, sorry.
When he said Colby's entrance is the coolest thing ever, it was cringeworthy. Colby thought all week that he was a WWE superstar. What did you think of the entrance when you watched it on TV? And then you also got the video I sent over. Jose, how would you rate the entrance? How did it come off on television, I guess is the question, because I didn't see it.
It's fine on TV. It wasn't anything like spectacular. It was just Hulk Hogan was standing there with the flag. Hulk Hogan sucks as a person, so it didn't do anything for me. Very clearly on the Mount Rushmore of WWE, actually all of professional wrestling, but he sucks as a human. But like, is this any different than like Mark Zuckerberg walked out Volkanovski, like Tenacious D walked out Wonder Boy? To me, it was just another dude, another celebrity walking out with Colby. And he does, like, Hulk does live in Tampa. He did come out with the entrance song, so like I get it. But people are also chanting Colby sucks during the fight. So probably it didn't win that many people over, but it was like to use wrestling terms, it popped the crowd. That's for sure. Just didn't do nothing for me.
Yeah, I mean it was fine. Like it got a pop in the arena. It wasn't like
100% did.
It wasn't like 18,000 people were screaming Hogan, but people popped in the arena for it. It was cool. Like as an 80s wrestling fan to hear the song and like I don't know what people expected. Did you expect like fireworks? Did you expect Colby to come out in a Hulkamania t-shirt? What did you expect?
I
It's
think
the
it was,
UFC.
I felt like Colby almost no sold it because he was so like, I'm about to fight Buckley, and it's like I mean he just he didn't have any there was no pro wrestling that Colby had. He wasn't like
I think
giving the
I
I don't know.
just think like
If,
Colby has never been a charismatic dude.
no,
Like he has these ideas. Like when Chael cut his promo, which I thought, I'm like, well, that's an interesting. Like I didn't hate the idea. I didn't hate the concept of it. The delivery, wasn't Chael's best promo, and Colby just goes. He had a very rehearsed thing that you could tell was rehearsed, and then he just stood there smiling like a goon. And then the entrance when he had the shirt ripped already, and I was like, oh, he's gonna do like the Hogan, like
Yeah, that
he's
was
gonna
bad.
do it, and then he just kind of went rip. I'm like, I was fucking lame. Like
Yeah,
he just
you should have
doesn't
got
have
up on
charisma.
the steps and did the whole thing. I mean,
Yeah,
I know you have
he
to
just,
take it off at the zone, but like at least the other thing that was super weird about it is that, and it's again, I'm with you, Jose. Like I don't like Hulk Hogan. 80s Mike, child Mike remembers Hulk Hogan. Hulk looked 1,000 years old.
he
He could
looked
barely
awful.
move. He was using the flag almost as a crutch until he got into the arena. Like he did. He just was like using the flagpole as like a crutch. And then as he was walking, it looked like he was going to fall over. At that, it just looked it was awkward because they were walking right, like literally right towards me. And all I could keep my eye on was Hulk trying to make it to where he needed to make it to because he looked like he was in the most amount of pain I've ever seen a human being in. So that was kind of weird. But the pop in the arena was like, it was fine. People got into it, but then it was over and that's it. Hulk just walked in and
was he
it.
cage safe to watch? Did he actually stay there to watch the fight? Was he in the corral or whatever you call it?
I don't
Or
think so.
you can, yeah, because they never showed him
I
on
couldn't
camera
tell.
again. On TV, they never showed him again after the walkout. They never went back to him
Yeah.
like, "Come on, Colby," or anything like that. So I don't know. Just wondering.
So yeah, so a little peek behind the curtain. The plan was the UFC was just going to get everybody, all the winners in to do a scrum before the main event, but everything started kind of slow. So we're trying to communicate with UFC PR, like, look, we need, like, what's going to happen towards the end here? Are we going to save the co-main event for the end? And they're like, no, we're going to get everybody out. I'm like, we need to get out. I was like, I need to get out there for Colby's entrance. I was like, I got to see it. I got to shoot it. Like, I got to do it. So they're like, all right, this is what we're going to do. Like, head out there, and then someone's going to come out and get you guys. So he makes the entrance. Hogan comes out, and then I get the tap on the shoulder. Like, Manel Kopp just got back there. And I'm like, I booked it to the back so we could do the Manel Kopp scrum. And then they're like, all right, we're keeping Cub Swanson till the end. So then I went back out and watched the rest of the fight. Probably got out there like 2 minutes into round 2 because Kopp's scrum ended right when Colby got knocked down by Buckley at the end of the first round. Because Kopp got up and like was like, oh shit, that was because that one really looked like it hurt. He goes, he's gonna kill him. So I got to watch Kopp like react to it, but and then we were right back out there. So I don't even if he was out there, I didn't see him.
Okay, question for you, gentlemen. What ex-pro wrestler or even current pro wrestler would give you personally the biggest pop if they walked out with a fighter?
It already happened, so
um,
Rock. I was a huge Rock mark.
Oh, you're a
So
Rock
that was
marker.
kind of cool at MSG. But it was more so like I got into it more when he walked out and did he announced the Smashing Machine movie at MSG more so than him coming out with the BMF title thing. Because there's just like, what the hell is going on here? Worlds are colliding in a crazy way. But
yeah. And he said the line. He said the line. Can you smell it? Yeah. Well, yeah.
He sure did.
He did. That was pretty cool.
If Tetsuya Naito walked out to his theme music in the Tokyo Dome with a fighter, I would stand up and salute.
Who? Sorry?
Tetsuya Naito.
Oh.
If he stood up, if he walked out with his entrance song with the fighter, and then they did the LIJ salute, I would stand up and do it with them. I would forget I was a journalist. It's not even a question. I have that man tattooed. I have that man's slogan tattooed on my body for a reason.
Back in the day, a few years ago, when Leslie Smith was fighting the UFC, I don't know what, because she was pushing the union a lot, and the great Mick Foley became like an online friend of her. So I was hoping Leslie Smith would walk out and Mick Foley would come out with her and stuff, but never happened. But that I remember thinking back in the day, oh, that'd be so cool.
It would be cool.
The D walking out with Wonder Boy was pretty awesome too. Like, it just seemed like it took forever for it to happen, but then it finally did, with like Jack Black and Kyle. I believe Kyle was with them too.
Yeah.
But
he was. This is before the drama.
Yeah, before the drama.
Yeah.
Let me see who else. All right. Thank you much. Hit up a couple more super chats before we get out here. Oh yeah, I forgot this about Colby's thing. Someone mentioned this.
Kissing Trump's face on his medallion was hilarious. I didn't even know that happened.
When they showed him backstage, when they do like them walking to the locker room, he had like a Trump, like a giant Trump medallion, like his head, and he raised up and kissed Trump. That's all. It was just like, okay, okay. It might have been just like a YouTube, not a YouTube, a social video for UFC. I'm not sure if it was on the broadcast or not. Yeah, I saw it. It was unique. Him kissing a statue of Trump. I mean, like a Trump's head. That was weird. Loves the man. All right.
Speculations on Dana's huge news that'll blow us all away in 2025. Any guesses, gentlemen?
This is Dana actually being a good promoter. That's all I'm gonna say.
The last time he teased big news, then I volunteered for. This is before I was just the social guy. Mike, you might have been here. Dana was teasing this big announcement, and so I was the one that volunteered to stay up and watch his socials and then write something. He just announced he was giving away a Cybertruck, so I'm no longer even I am no longer even trying to guess what it is.
My guess is his big news is him doing his dang job and actually announcing John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. That Dana White doing the thing.
I don't think that's it.
I know it's not it, but I'm just.
I bet it could have something to do with the Apex because they're building it out a ton.
It's gonna be some boring sponsorship thing like, oh, we have Cornuts is back, baby. Cornuts is back. You know?
Where did he tease it? I don't even remember.
It was at the press conference at Tampa because he already talked about guaranteeing Aspinall Jones.
Right.
And then he was, I think it was like the last questions he was answering. He goes, we just finalized something yesterday that's going to blow everybody away. But the last time we got that announcement was, we haven't even announced the UFC 300 main event yet, but it's going to blow everybody's socks off.
Yeah.
The amount of layers of clothing that jumped on my body after Pereira Hill was announced was mind-boggling, but still gave us a great moment, and it was a great card. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know what it is. People think it might be Logan Paul, Conor McGregor in an exhibition match in India. I don't know if that'd be huge.
I don't even know if that's happening.
I don't either. But maybe that's what he was teasing, because the timing of it all was like 2 days after Dana said, wait till you see this shit. It's going to blow everybody away. Is this it? Is that news that's going to blow people away? An exhibition boxing match in Conor McGregor and Logan Paul? I don't know.
But how many times has he said it? It just doesn't mean anything. Yeah, they'll blow you. Yeah, just whatever. All right, we'll see it. Thank you. A couple more super chats before we get out of here. Oh, look who finally got her payment through.
Yes. Sheila, not sure when I can catch another live before the year ends. Thank you very much, Jose and Mike and the whole MMA fighting crew, for all that you do for us. Looking forward to next year. Thank you, Sheila.
Respect to Sheila for including the accent too. We love to see it.
Wow.
Sheila, number one fan.
Love to see it.
I've
Thank you,
taken
Sheila.
photos with Sheila in Singapore and Las Vegas.
Aw,
We love Sheila.
Sheila's
Thank
good
you.
people.
She is good people. All right. Super chat from Chase.
How long into 2025 will it take for us to be done with the whole will John fight Tom saga? It's literally been 13 months. I'm ready for it to be over. I was ready for it to be over 12 and a half months ago, but here we are. I hope it's quick. I mean, that's all I can really say. Like, just do it one way or the other. At this point, even if they don't make it, I'm just ready to move on from it. You know, I want to see it, but
it's the new Connor versus Chandler. We just won't stop talking about it. Is that officially dead? Is that dead yet? Are we? No, still there.
no, because Chandler can just fight Connor whenever. He doesn't even need to win fights. That fight actually makes more sense after Oliveira thumped up Chandler.
What a dumb world.
I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But Alex Pereira is now coming out and saying that he's not fighting Ankalaev anymore. So people are trying to decipher what the hell that means.
Dustin Jacoby rematch. I bet that's what's going to be.
After that knockout, maybe. You never know.
Especially if they want to do it, because I know the UFC is going to Vegas in March. I'm like, I don't think Ankalaev can fight in March. So if they just need a guy to fill up space, then so be it.
Oh, Casey, remember last week's BTL? Could it be? Could we be getting Alex Pereira versus Dominic Reyes for the UFC light heavyweight title?
No.
There was like 35 minutes on Dominic Reyes' title hopes on last week's show.
Yeah, I know. He's so close.
It's unbelievable. We're so close. Maybe that's the one. Maybe that's what we're getting.
What a career comeback for Dominic Reyes. What a career. All right. And our last super chat before we get out of here. $20 from Dave Sandine. Thank you so much.
Damn. Thanks for all the great content this year from Sheila, Andrea from the Philippines. Happy birthday, AK Lee. Dave, you rock. Thank you, sir. Yeah. And that's it.
Oh, wait, hold on.
We got more.
One more muffin, maybe.
A very meowy Christmas to all from the Rock Panos. That's an awesome YouTube name handle.
Love it.
Terrific stuff. So next week, BTL. It will not be a video show. Jed Mishu will join me for our annual promotional Festivus episode, the promotional airing of grievances, where Jed and I go through each promotion. We discuss the good, the bad. We give a grade for how they performed, and then our wishes, I guess, for 2025 for these promotions. Always a good show. We always get yelled at by people from promotions based on our honesty about things, but that's just the nature of the beast. So that'll drop, I believe, the 26th on the MMA Fighting Podcast Network, and then we'll have our award show to let you know who won all these great awards. We'll have all the individual write-ups, and then we're going to start getting into prediction time. On to the next one. 2-part predictions extravaganza. First one goes down, I believe, I forget which day, but it's the last Sunday in December. That's the recap of last year's picks to see who did best. And then the following Sunday, we'll be live on the channel, 11 a.m. Eastern, and we'll do it all over again. So submit your buy-sell questions about all things UFC and MMA to however you submit your matchmaking suggestions. Favorite time of the year to knock out these predictions, and it's always fun to go back and see how we did. So, Casey, hit the music. What a year it has been for the UFC. What a year it has been for BTL. You guys are all incredible. For Jose, I am Mike Heck. Thank you all. We'll see you back on BTL here on the YouTube channel in 2025. The iconic voice of Estelin takes you home. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
This has been Between the Links, an MMA fighting production on the Vox Media Network.